Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. This is episode 8 in season 17. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. My name is Sonal Patel, and this is the Paint the Medical Picture podcast series. All right, you guys, so let's get right into it today. This is going to be one of my larger episodes. It is the last Wednesday of the month, so my audience knows what that's all about. It's going to feature my fraud, waste, and abuse cases that have been in the news for the entire month of March. And of course, I'm going to spotlight some of those from the month's criminal and civil enforcement cases that I find newsworthy. And in my trusty tip, I'm going to go ahead and focus compliance recommendations on billing for Category III CPT codes. And I'll go ahead and round out and close out today's episode with a remarkable quote at the close of Women's History Month by Serena Williams. All right, you guys, let's get into it. So let's get into today's newsworthy, the month's fraud, waste, and abuse cases. Now, the month of March saw a whopping 48 cases as of the recording of this episode. But let's go ahead and check out some of the cases that I want to spotlight. March saw a Russian citizen charged with laundering over $1.2 million connected to $400 million in fraudulent Medicare claims. Now, a Russian national made his initial appearance in Houston, Texas, on a charge that he laundered over $1.2 million derived from a healthcare fraud scheme that targeted Medicare Advantage organizations, or MAOs, that administer Medicare Part C. Now, according to court documents, the man, formerly of Houston, Texas, and originally of Tyumen, Russia, established Verisola Inc. in Houston and registered it as a durable medical equipment, or DME, company in July of 2025. Now, over the course of just 9 days from July through August of 2025, he allegedly opened 6 different bank accounts in the name of Verisola at 6 different financial institutions. He opened an additional 2 bank accounts at 2 other financial institutions in September and October of 2025. Now, to disguise the true ownership and control of Verisola, the man allegedly submitted false documentation to these financial institutions, listing himself as the sole owner, member, or president, when in fact he did not have beneficial ownership or control of Verisola. From August of 2025 through January of 2026, Verisola allegedly submitted over $400 million in false and fraudulent claims to MAOs for DME, including orthotic braces and glucose monitors that were never actually provided to patients. Now, based on these fraudulent claims, the MAOs collectively reimbursed Verisola at least $1.7 million, which was deposited into the various Verisola bank accounts that he had opened. He then allegedly moved these fraud proceeds between bank accounts for no legitimate business purpose. The man and his co-conspirators wired at least $1.2 million of fraud proceeds to overseas entities and bank accounts. Now, according to the indictment, after Verisola wound down its fraudulent billing scheme, the man traveled from Houston, Texas to Los Angeles, California, where he purchased a same-day airline ticket for a one-way flight to Moscow, Russia. The FBI arrested him before he boarded that flight, and he remains detained pending trial. He is charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering by concealing and disguising the true nature, location, source, and ownership of the fraud proceeds, and by engaging in financial transactions greater than $10,000, knowing that they involve the proceeds of unlawful activity. If convicted, he faces a statutory maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. Now, an indictment is merely an allegation. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Integra Labs, Inc., Integra, a Tennessee-based corporation, has agreed to pay a combined total of $208,624.40 to the United States of America and the state of West Virginia for improper billings made to the West Virginia Medicaid program. The United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of West Virginia and the Office of the West Virginia Attorney General, Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, partnered to hold this laboratory responsible for its False Claims Act violations. Integra provides laboratory services, including drug testing, and is enrolled in the West Virginia Medicaid provider network. According to the settlement, the United States and the state of West Virginia contend Integra violated the law by repeatedly submitting billings to the West Virginia Medicaid program for medically unnecessary testing ordered by medical providers over a 2-year period. Specifically, it is alleged that Integra submitted improper claims for specimen validity that were not allowable. The claims resolved by this particular settlement are allegations only, and there has been no determination of liability. March saw a Waukesha medical equipment company agreeing to pay nearly $7 million to resolve allegations of false billings to the federal health care programs. Connex Medical Company, LLC, agreed to pay over $6.9 million to resolve allegations that it violated the False Claims Act by submitting false claims to Medicare, TRICARE, and other federal programs. Based in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Connex sells and distributes durable medical equipment, including knee, shoulder, and hip braces, to patients across the United States. After receiving information from a whistleblower, the United States investigated and alleged that the company submitted false claims to Medicare, TRICARE, the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, or the FEHBP, as well as the Office of Workers' Compensation Programs of the Department of Labor, the OWCP. Now, specifically, the United States alleged that from the years 2019 through 2024, Connex provided patients covered by these programs with medical braces that the patients did not need, and then billed to Medicare, TRICARE, FEHBP, and OWCP as if the braces had been necessary. The United States also alleged that Connex convinced the patients to accept the braces by waiving costs like patient copays and by giving the patients other equipment for free. In addition to paying nearly $7 million to resolve these allegations concerning these false claims, Connex also entered into a corporate integrity agreement, a CIA, with the United States Department of Health and Human Services, the Office of the Inspector General, the HHS-OIG, to ensure compliance with applicable regulations going forward. Because the government's investigation resulted from a whistleblower complaint filed under the QTAM provisions of the False Claims Act, the whistleblower will receive a share of the settlement. The settlement agreement states allegations only. Connex does not admit liability for the allegations. March also saw over $12 million in Medicaid fraud schemes, leading to 14 years of prison for a substance abuse facility, owner, compliance officer, and office manager. A federal judge has handed down more than 14 years in federal prison to participants in a $12.7 million Medicaid fraud scheme that paid more than $1 million in kickbacks to drug addict patients. The case also resulted in the permanent closure of the fake substance abuse facility that carried out the crime, a $15 million fine, as well as the seizure of more than $6 million in criminal proceeds, including cash, cars, and homes. According to court documents, 3 women and 1 man operated Life Touch LLC, a purported substance abuse facility operating in Kinston and Goldsboro, as well as First Choice Healthcare Services, a urine drug screening company. Now, between the years 2018 and 2023, 2 of them oversaw payments of more than $1 million in illegal kickbacks to Life Touch's Medicaid patients who were drug users. They paid these kickbacks to lure patients to show up for costly substance abuse and lab services that one of them billed to Medicaid on behalf of Life Touch and First Choice. One of the women owned First Choice Healthcare and then paid Medicaid kickbacks to 2 of the others for fake lab services ordered by Life Touch LLC. Meanwhile, the man owned Life Touch and resided in Texas, and he received millions in illegal proceeds from the Life Touch operation, but failed to file or pay taxes on that money. The gift card kickback scheme resulted in more than $12.7 million in fake billings to the Medicaid program. Now, 2 women deceived the North Carolina Medicaid program in multiple audits. They repeatedly lied and falsified documents to make it appear to East Point, a managed care organization, that LifeTouch never paid illegal kickbacks to patients when, in fact, they did. One of the women had later lied again regarding the gift cards during a civil investigation conducted by the Medicaid Investigations Division. At the time of these lies, she served as the compliance officer for LifeTouch, while the other served as the office manager in Kinston. During the investigation, federal agents seized and forfeited more than $6 million in assets in the form of cash, real estate, and other assets. In November of 2023, after becoming aware of the criminal investigation, the man withdrew more than $1 million in cash from a bank account, hiding it in a safe at his Texas home. Agents executed a search warrant and seized $1.3 million in cash, a 2021 Rolls-Royce Cullinan, a 2021 Chevrolet Corvette, as well as a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado. Agents seized millions more in other real property. March also saw a psychiatrist reaching a civil settlement agreement of $360,000 to resolve allegations of false claims to federal health care programs. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri and a Missouri psychiatrist have reached a $360,000 civil settlement that will resolve False Claims Act allegations, FCA allegations. The settlement resolves allegations that from January 1st of 2019 through May 31st of 2024, the psychiatrist falsely indicated to both Medicare and Missouri Medicaid that she provided face-to-face psychotherapy to patients, including by submitting false claims for payment for services when she was out of town and for services that were provided by other practitioners. She was employed at Behavioral Health Services, LLC, which was owned and operated by Psych Care Consultants in St. Louis, Missouri. The settlement with the psychiatrist consists of $155,000 in restitution to Medicare and $25,000 in restitution to Missouri Medicaid. The restitution amount is doubled under the FCA. The psychiatrist's brother was part owner of Behavioral Health Services. In July of 2025, he entered into a civil settlement resolving similar conduct and paid over $500,000. In April of 2025, he pleaded guilty to making a false statement to a federal health care program. In January, his medical license was revoked for 4 years as part of a settlement agreement with the Missouri State Board of Registration for the Healing Arts. The settlement here contains no admission of liability. In December of 2025, she pleaded guilty to 2 counts of making false statements related to healthcare matters. March also saw an Arizona cardiology group agreeing to pay $4.75 million to resolve allegations of unnecessary vein ablations. Tri-City Cardiology, PC, a physician group based in the metro area of Phoenix, Arizona, and 3 individual physicians have agreed to pay $4.75 million to resolve allegations that they violated the False Claims Act by performing medically unnecessary vein ablations. The civil settlement resolves allegations that from January 1st of 2017 through April 27th of 2022, the 3 doctors knowingly performed ablations on perforator veins that did not qualify for treatment under accepted standards of medical practice. Perforator veins are small veins that connect deep and superficial leg veins and require treatment only in certain circumstances. The United States contends that Tri-City and the physicians acted knowingly in incorrectly measuring or documenting in medical records the duration of outward blood flow, the diameter of veins, patient symptoms, and conservative therapy measures, which gave the appearance that the ablations met acceptable medical standards and were justified. The claims resolved by the settlement here are allegations only, and there has been no determination of liability. March also saw a U.S. attorney announcing additional enforcement action as part of the national effort to combat electrical stimulation fraud schemes and recover millions. Now, the United States Attorney David Metcalf announced the filing of a complaint under the False Claims Act in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. This is the latest action in the national investigation into the scheme of improper billing using the RST Senexis Neogen Series electrical stimulation device. Federal healthcare programs do not reimburse for electrical nerve stimulation treatments furnished in outpatient clinics to treat pain, nor do they cover vitamin injections used in conjunction with such treatments. Now, as detailed here, the district and others have pursued and settled various False Claims Act cases against electrical stimulation providers, recovering millions. The complaint is against two doctors of St. Louis, Missouri, as well as their integrated chiropractic clinics, the Vanguard Clinic LLC and Senexis Device Distributorship Fleur de Lis LLC, alleging violations of the False Claims Act. As alleged in the complaint, one of the men is a chiropractor who helped develop the scheme for billing Senexis treatment and vitamin injections to insurance and promoted that scheme nationwide. The other man is an emergency room physician who served as the medical director for Vanguard, as well as two other Senexis clinics, and distributed Senexis devices nationwide. Beginning in late 2018, one man promoted Senexis treatment and vitamin injections as reimbursable by Medicare and provided coding instructions. But the United States alleges that he knew that billing Medicare could be considered fraudulent. And despite later admitting in a federal complaint that their billing of Senexis treatment and vitamin injections was not covered by Medicare, the man continued to bill Medicare. Meanwhile, the other man falsely certified that vitamin injections were medically necessary despite not even knowing the ingredients in those injections. The claims above are allegations only, and there has been no determination of liability. And now it's time for my best practice tips in Trusty Tip. So let's talk about those incredible Category III codes in our CPT codebooks that reflect all of the innovations in medicine, in healthcare. Also important is the question, are these payable codes? What does Medicare have to say? Well, the MAC in my region is National Government Services, NGS, and they just put out a nice reminder for their practitioners last week. And it states that Category III CPT codes, those are the 4 digits followed by the letter T. Those codes are created by the AMA, the American Medical Association, to track emerging technologies, services, and procedures. These are often new, investigational, or in early adoption. So NGS continues and talks about coverage status. And again, I'm only talking about specific to my region, the NGS region here in the Midwest. Now, it goes on and states coverage status for Category III codes are not automatically covered or non-covered just because they're Category III. However, many Category III services are denied because they're frequently considered experimental or investigational, and they may not meet Medicare's reasonable and necessary standards unless Medicare has a supporting policy. For example, like in a national coverage determination, an LCD, or a local coverage determination, an LCD, or other applicable guidance. Now, when can these particular Category III CPT codes be paid? Well, NGS continues and says they may be payable for a clinical trial billing situation. So, a Category III service that's otherwise investigational may be considered for Medicare payment only when it qualifies under Medicare's clinical trial or clinical research billing rules and it's billed correctly. Now, when the service is provided in a qualifying clinical trial context, make sure that our practitioners include the modifier Q0, which is for investigational clinical service provided in a clinical research study. Also, try to utilize modifier Q1, which is for routine clinical service provided in a clinical research study. Also, make sure to include the ICD-10-CM diagnosis code of Z00.6, which is specific for an encounter for examination for normal comparison and control in a clinical research program. And then finally, make sure you include on the claim the 8-digit NCT number or P4 when that's required. Now, if the service is investigational and not in an approved clinical trial, it's generally not eligible for Medicare coverage and will typically be denied if it does not meet coverage criteria and is not billed under an approved clinical trial framework. So make sure you're including those required modifiers as well as those required identifiers. And finally, I want to close out Women's History Month with an inspiring quote in Spark from Serena Williams. You have to believe in yourself when no one else does. Absolutely true, right? I love this quote that really celebrates women, encouraging women, lifting women up, inspiring women. Something I always say again and again. Resilience develops after every no. Keep going. You will hear yes. I'm happy Serena Williams' spark burns brightly and can still inspire so very many. All right, you guys. Well, that wraps up today's episode. This month, I have celebrated all the women in my life that have made an impact on me. So I hope you take the time to acknowledge all the great women in your life as well, right? Not just for this month, but for every day that you have them in your life. I wouldn't wait too long, right? Life is too short. All right, you guys. So the month is over in just a couple of days, and April is going to be here very, very soon. So hopefully you've completed your vision boards, you've filled out all those applications for new possibilities for the month of April. Now, I know my mind is steady and focused. I do not let other people's opinions distract me. I hope you're challenging yourself to find higher ground, higher purpose, higher frequency. You are amazing. You are gifted and talented. Start and end each day with gratitude and joy. All right, you guys, I wish you all an amazing and very, very happy week ahead. Thank you so much for listening on today's episode, and I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.